Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing Time of Crisis, the Roman Empire in Turmoil 235-284 AD. This is a deck-building area control game published by GMT and designed by Ray Farrell and Brad Johnson. Alright, so here's Time of Crisis all set up. This is actually partway into a game that involves 3 bots and 1 human. So the game will develop in a really normal looking way with all the bots, which is pretty cool. The purpose of this game is to try to get as many legacy points as possible. So you want the most points. And one of the best ways to ensure that is to spend as many emperor turns as possible. So you want to control a lot of territory, become the governor of Italy, because the emperor is the one who gets all the perks. Although you can also choose to become a pretender and make the emperor's life miserable. So there are a lot of ways to have fun in this game. The game ends when one of the players has 60 plus legacy points and is currently the governor of Italia, or there's an event card in here called Diocletian that will automatically end the game if it comes off of the event deck. It's deliberately buried pretty far down at setup, so that's an unlikely outcome, to be honest. So in this game, you're going to take turns doing whatever you can to increase your power in the Empire. At the beginning of your turn, you're going to need to do a crisis roll, which is what brings barbarians from these neighboring lands onto the board. And it's also what triggers events. After your crisis roll, you're going to do whatever you can with your hand of 5 cards. And what makes Time of Crisis very interesting is that it is an area control deck builder. So on each turn, you're going to be wanting to buy more and more powerful cards. You are able to trash cards from your deck. And what's very interesting is at the end of each of your turns, you select the 5 cards that you're going to have in your hand for the next turn. And then they go to discard pile until you refresh your deck. So if these are all my cards, you start with only 1 value cards and then you purchase more expensive ones as time goes by. I would choose 5 of these cards based on the actions that I wanted to take on my upcoming turn. And the color of the points on the cards that I choose to take will matter in terms of what actions I'm able to perform. Red points let you perform military actions. Yellow points let you perform what are called populous actions, so you can improve your provinces. You can put mobs in other people's provinces if you have the right cards. It's good fun. And then blue points are Senate points that you use to perform political actions, such as trying to place a governor. It's going to be up to you to figure out how to build the best hands, both in terms of anticipating what your opponents will do, and in terms of plotting out the most efficient course to victory for yourself. What's also exciting about upgrading your deck is that most of these cards are 1-point cards right now, but as you upgrade, you're going to get cards that are worth more points to perform better actions. They're also going to carry events on them. So this one has a Costra event, which lets you place a token on a province that you think is in danger to protect it a little bit better until your turn comes back around again. But some actions will let you do things like set yourself up as a pretender, place mob counters in other people's provinces to give them stability problems, and more. And the thing that's really fun about the events is that you don't have to choose between points and events. You get the points on your card, and you can choose to play the event. So once you build a really great deck, there's no shortage of trouble that you can get into. The other thing that's fascinating about this game is that you don't buy cards based on cards you already have. Your buying points come from the amount of territory you control and the level of support you have in those territories. So if you've lost all of your provinces, you're not going to be able to buy very good cards. Whereas if you have multiple provinces, you're going to be able to purchase better cards. So this is a game that rewards you for success, just like real Roman military success would. So this is all stuff you'll see in the base game. If you want to play solo, you need to get what's called the Age of Iron and Rust expansion. And this is a great expansion whether or not you want to play solo. It doubles the number of cards that are available, so all those cool points and events you were able to get in the base game are now doubled, so you have more options. It gives you more options as to how to play Emperor. In the base game, you just become governor of Italia and hang on. The expansion gives you the opportunity to try to be a military emperor going around and conquering other armies, although you can also die in battle. Or you can be a populous emperor and rule from your chosen province while trying to hold on to Italia. But you're a solo player, this is a solo channel, what you're probably interested in are the bots. So this game can be played by 2, 3, or 4 players, but I've actually discovered that it's very doable with 1 human and 3 bots. So this is what the bot pages look like. Let's zoom in on one and just get a look at what these are like. So for your bots, you have 3 options. You have Maximinus Thrax, who is very militarily inclined. He was a soldier. You have Pupienus and Balbinus. Yes, it is pronounced Pupienus. That's your Latin lesson for the day. These are your more senatorial emperors. They didn't last very long either. This game is set in a period of great turmoil. And you also have Gordian III, who was like 13 when he became emperor, and it was a popular choice. Imagine a little Gen Z influencer emperor, and here you go. And he has slightly different priorities as well. He likes his yellow populous points. But the way these will work is, setup is really simple. You just put these cylinders, one for each point color, over here on the board, and then use these pawns to mark the level of influence that the bot has in different areas. So military, Senate, and populace. At the beginning of each turn, you're going to look at this little chart over here and decide what mode the bot's going to play in. The mode choices are the same across all 3 bots, so you only have to learn one set. So let's say that we're going to start in mode 1, which you mark it, and then basically the color on top becomes your primary influence type for that turn. You put it in the top box onto the pawn. The one underneath becomes your secondary. It goes in the bottom box. And this tells you how many points the bot has to spend that turn. The game also comes with a very handy aid. You get a flowchart that's going to help you spend those points by looking at the priorities that the bot has when taking actions. This is also actually pretty nice as a strategy guide for you if you don't know what to do, so it's worth learning the AI action priority list anyway. It's also the same flowchart for every bot, which is super helpful because you don't have to learn 3 different sets of rules to run 3 different bots. This guide is also helpful because it's got guides to how the AI will use event cards, because they will use events on their cards as well. And there are also military guidelines to help guide you through battle and how they're going to prioritize their attacks. The other thing that's very nice about these bots is that they don't actually collect a hand of cards, so you get to play cards, but the bot doesn't have to. The way it's going to work is that, let's say that Max Minus Thrax has some political points to spend at the end of the turn, and he decides to bump up his Senate influence. That means that the next time he uses Senate, he's going to get more points. And this little number in a colored circle is going to tell you that he is going to play an event that is worth 2 points the next time he spends points in this area. So rather than run a hand of cards, you have these very handy tracks to help you monitor the abilities of your bots without having to do too much more than that. I will also tell you, if you want a very detailed rules teach for this game, I've got one forthcoming. I've made 2 videos, one to really explain the base game in depth, and then one to show you what's in the expansion with some details about the bots. So if this is piquing your interest and you want to learn more, stay tuned, there will be more. All right, time for some final thoughts. As you can probably tell from my description, I really like this game. Honestly, it was even more fun than I thought it was going to be. And even better news, I like it both with other humans and with the solo bots. So let's talk about what makes it good. I think what I like the most about this game, honestly, is how mean it is. You cannot just be a shrinking violet in this game. You have to get yourself out there, you have to take over some provinces, you have to be aggressive with your armies, you have to be willing to go for that governor position in Italia. You just have to go for it. And the glorious mess that it creates is really, really good fun. I love that you have so many possibilities with your actions as well, especially with those populous actions, where you can become a pretender and set up your own empire, where you can place mobs to decrease stability in other people's provinces. I like that the blue cards give you some options for dealing with barbarians, so sometimes you can add them to your army, or you can make them dormant for a turn so they don't mess with you while you need some space to breathe. And the military actions are good fun too, especially if you're going for high value ones that let you stage a coup. So the tensions run high in this game, and I like the way that it's done, in part because very little of it is down to luck. The die rolls matter, so die rolls can hurt you in battle, and die rolls can affect what invasions happen on your turn. But in terms of your cards, this is not a deck builder where you just get whatever card you get, and maybe your good cards didn't come up on the right turn. This is a game where you're choosing what goes into your hand, and you are supposed to think about what actions you need to take. And that includes anticipating what other people are going to do, and planning out the most advantageous turns for yourself. And that means that you are really the one who is deciding your strategies, who might have miscalculated, assuming somebody wasn't going to attack you this turn, or you were maybe too cautious for an attack, and so you spent a whole turn not getting anything done because you were too busy trying to cover your butt instead of get out there and be aggressive the way you need to win. And the fact that you get such interesting decisions turn to turn is delightful to me. And I will say that this might be where you need to get the expansion if you like this game, because the number of cards basically doubles if you add the expansion in, and there's so many more event options on those cards that it lets you really decide your strategy in a more interesting way. And it just gives you some interesting forking pathways in terms of your deck build. So I actually think the expansion was one of those that truly makes the game better in really substantial ways. And I was really impressed with that because I don't think all expansions are necessary. This one really felt like it was breathing new life into a game. And the other thing that I was really surprised by was how nice the solo bots were to run. I know that flowcharts are intimidating. I think that people sometimes steer away from GMT because of the flowchart solo bots, but if you're going to start with one, I actually think the solo bots in the Age of Iron and Rust are a really good choice because they really run so nicely. You only need one flowchart for everyone. There's only one way to decide what mode each bot is playing in, and then the actual mat that you're playing the bots on does a good job of helping you track a hand of cards without actually having to manage bot cards. So I actually found it very smooth to play a 4-player game with only one human player, and it's smoother than that experience has been for me in pretty much any game I can think of. So if you're looking to try solo bots, I think these are quite accessible, and I actually found that my game flowed pretty well. I don't believe there's anything that's quite going to replace human players, especially because once you know what the flowcharts says, then you pretty much know what the bots are going to prioritize and you can use that information against them, whereas humans are much more unpredictable to play against. However, that said, I still don't beat the solo bots every time. They get to cheat a little bit, they get a little bit of brute force in exchange for the cleverness they lack, not being humans. And they really do all of the things that you would want an opponent to do in a game. So a bot player can set up a Pretender Empire. A bot player can do a Damnatio Memoriae on you. A bot player can use the Praetorian Guard to take Italia away from you or from one of the other players. So the bots generally work very well. So they're not going to interact with you the way that a human player would in terms of just the pure backstabbing skullduggery that I think takes this game to the next level. I think this might be a game where in a lot of circumstances you want to look at your friend across the table and be like, you jerk, after they do something horrible, because it's frankly hilarious. But I actually genuinely enjoyed the bots, and I do think this is a good solo game to play. If you want to do a solo war game, you want to do some solo area control, this works great. So obviously you can tell, I really, really like Time of Crisis. If you enjoy this historical time period, if you like deck building with some interesting choices involved, if you want to have to do some bold area control, then this game is really going to appeal to you. And honestly, I can't imagine myself saying no to it at game night. This one's really up my alley. I'm really glad I played it. And I have an extensive tutorial forthcoming, so you can play it too. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and happy gaming.